Okay, the clock's good.
Recording my voice.
I'll be at home there. What does that smell like on a Monday morning?
We're not ready for that yet. We'll just hit that sticky face and we'll get going. All right, guys. Well, welcome. How's everybody doing?
Good.
This side needs help. Thank you, this side, for that interaction. Wow. Guys, you have to understand I work with kids, so when I say how's everybody doing, like I expect some type of response, all right? Like I don't need one of those like traditional "Hello, Teacher Corey," but like hello is good. So I'm glad that you guys decided to come back. That you thought this was worth it, and last week I hope you guys learned a lot. Once again, we are recording back there, and so if you do miss a week, that will be published on Facebook. I know Crossing Kids published it this week, and so did the 48th Street Facebook page. But I'm glad you guys are here. How many of this is your first week here? I know we had a couple of new ones, a couple right there, sweet. So we had 3 new ones, and the rest of you guys were here last week. So amazing. So if you guys remember, there's 3 resources we're pulling from, just so you guys know. I would encourage you guys after this class. This is a great workbook to go through as spouses, as parents. It's called Intentional Parenting, okay? So this is what we're going to be hitting at the end of class. He gives 10 ways to be an exceptional parent in a quick fix world, and so we go through 2 of those for the first 5 weeks. All right, and so we'll hit that at the very end. The other 2 resources are almost one and the same. Sticky Faith book. This is kind of what our teaching's on, the main book with Kara Powell and Chad Clark. But this is the one that I've been reading, and this is like gives you guys some there's some gems in here as parents. And so I would encourage you guys afterwards to look at these books. Pick them out. It kind of just goes through, and I just been highlighting different things that I'm like, oh, that'd be a great thing to put in our family. So those are the 3 resources that I'm going to be teaching out of. You guys remember we're going to be doing a video, and we'll just keep going from there. Okay, and we'll have discussion at the end, so make sure that you guys stick around. You guys have name tags. That's good for you because I had someone, Kim out there. I asked her some feedback, and here's what I want to tell you guys. I love to welcome feedback. All right, even in the middle of the class, there's things that I can do throughout the week to make sure that you guys are getting the very best experience that you could possibly get. This happened to be one of them. She said, hey, it'd be nice to know some people's names. It'd be nice to know the ages of their kids, how many kids they have. So that way when we're in discussion groups, they can see that, and they can know what stage of life you're in, and you'll be able to connect a little bit better in that way. So that's that. So I welcome positive feedback. I also welcome negative feedback, okay? Like, nothing's going to hurt my feelings. I want to make sure that you guys are getting the very, very best that you guys are looking for. So please, please, please make sure you let me know what you think. You can just Facebook message me if you want to email me. If you want to tell someone else to tell me so I don't know it was you that told me, I'm okay with that too. Like, write me a note and put your name on it, all right? So that'd be good. So let's see, let's keep going. This week, we're going to be, last week, I'm sorry, we talked all about Sticky Faith Essentials, right? This whole concept of the Sticky Faith book is building a faith that lasts. And so that's the first step we have to realize. And if you guys remember, we can't give what we don't have. So if we don't have a sticky faith, we can't give that to our kids. That's what we have to realize first. This week, we're going to focus on one of those topics that I feel like all of us struggle with. It's called sticky faith identity, all right? So we're going to talk about that question, who am I? We're going to look specifically at your kids, and when they ask that question, who am I? So we're going to really talk about that today. If you have your note page, make sure you guys are taking notes during this video we're about to watch again. At the end of it, we're going to open up discussion. We're like, hey, what did you guys get out of this? What are some things that stuck out to you? And so that's what we'll do at the end, okay? If you turn that note page over real quick, before we get into this video, there's one question I want you guys to answer by yourselves, okay? It's that first question. It said if you have to describe yourself in 5 different words, what words would you describe yourself with, okay? So 5 words, how would you describe yourself? And I don't mean like, I love Jesus. No, like, I don't mean like that. That's good. That should, like, Jesus is one of my first ones, okay? I'm a follower of Jesus. That would be one word, okay? Follower of Jesus. I know it's, okay, anyway. It's confusing. But 5 words, all right? right, so do that real quick, like, and then I'm going to come back and give you a little more further instructions, and I'll pray, and we'll get to our video. I'm going to pray real quick, and then we're going to go into this video. You may notice there's a part I did cut out, so it skipped this testimony part because we're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. So it's going to be about 15 minutes as far as the video, so you're going to hear Tara talk today about sticky identity, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about like these things you've seen in the video, but there's some things that she left out that was in her book that I thought was really good. So I'll talk about some of those things. And then we'll end with those 2 intentional parenting tips that we can work on for this week, okay? And then we'll move small groups. So let's pray, and we'll get to this real quick. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for a new day. Father, we need those as parents every day, and we need those as followers of you every day. Thank you for your new mercies and for your grace. Lord, I pray that you just you give us open eyes, open heart, Lord, to hear and to see what you have to teach us today. As parents, God, I pray that we all know we fall short. I pray, God, that as we focus on this second thing, the sticky identity, the question that our kids are asking, maybe the question that we ask is, who am I? What defines me? What makes me who I am? And so, God, I pray that you will just help us journey through this. You help us just be that resource for our kids to help them discover who they are. And Lord, so I pray that you just you move through this one. We love you. We thank you. We pray also in Jesus' name. Amen. Check this out.
I'm standing in front of this mirror because it represents one of the most important questions we and our kids will ever ask. That question is, who am I? That is the core question of identity. That's also a question our kids are wrestling with every day. I remember being a teenager and wondering, who am I? Sometimes I thought I was my hair or my makeup. I used to get 17 magazine and pore over each issue, trying to pinpoint which hair or makeup trick would help me figure out who I was. Or I thought I was defined by my clothes. As a teenager, I tried so hard to figure out what clothes would help me feel better about myself and cause others to like me more. Here's a true confession. I used to actually write down on paper what I wore so I wouldn't duplicate my outfits. I was afraid that if I wore the same shirt too often, others would somehow think less of me. I know it sounds silly now, but since clothes were such an important part of my identity, it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. Or I thought it was my music that defined me. Right now, that would be an iPod. When I was a teenager, it was a Walkman. For some of you watching, maybe it was an 8-track player. But music has always been a powerful force. Kids often find their sense of themselves in the bands they listen to or the songs they like. Or if it wasn't music, I thought I would be defined by my friends. As long as I could be friends with the right kind of people, which meant the popular kids, I would feel okay about myself. I worked so hard at trying to fit in with the kids who would make me look better. Who I was often determined by which lunch table I sat at. I am not the only teenager who has wondered, who am I? Every kid, including your kids and my kids, are wondering about their identity. Every teenager is asking that question. We as parents can help instill sticky faith by modeling and reminding our kids of this good news. Our ultimate sense of our identity is best found in God's answer to that pressing "who am I" question. It is God's answer that can help our families reach their full potential and develop sticky faith. Tim Clydesdale is a sociologist who interviewed 125 students as they graduated from high school. He found that students end up storing important parts of themselves in an identity lockbox. Teenagers and emerging adults often put their faith in that identity lockbox. The good news is that you put things that are important to you in a lockbox. So in a sense, young people are saying that their faith is important to them. But when teenagers put their spiritual identity in the lockbox, they then make a bunch of really important decisions. Decisions related to marriage, career, worldview, partying, and friends. Where's their faith during those decisions? It's locked up in the lockbox. In our 6 years of Sticky Faith research, we heard from lots of college students that they put their faith on hold when they entered college so that they could, as they describe it, enjoy the college life. Translated, that means party. Because we as parents are looking for consistency and growth, when we see our kids shelving their faith, we feel like we are losing them. But we have to remember that identity and faith formation is a messy process of 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. Few kids follow a straightforward path. There are usually many more twists and turns in our kids' lives than we would want. What can you do to help your kids hopefully avoid putting their faith in that lockbox? The core message about identity that you want to send is that no matter what, your kids are God's beloved. This is so important, I'll say it again. No matter what, your kids are God's beloved. One of the people who has greatly influenced my own understanding of what it means to be God's beloved is Henry Nouwen. Nouwen has mused that every one of us is hounded by the "who am I" question throughout our lives. We're so tempted to think we can answer that question by saying, "I am what I do." Or maybe we answer, "I am what I control." Or perhaps we think to ourselves, "I am what others say about me." As Nouwen points out, each of these responses is inadequate. In fact, these responses become destructive both for us and our kids. When how well our kids do at something becomes the primary rubric for discovering who they are, we do them no favors. To Nouwen, the answer to the single most important question affecting all of humanity, "Who am I?" is the message of Jesus and the Bible. Your child has been created, redeemed, and called to live as God's precious and beloved child. Your son may be good at many things and bring you great joy as his personality develops. Your daughter may show amazing promise as you watch her grow into a young woman with much to offer the world. But beneath all their gifts and talents, each and every child is more than the sum of their abilities and personality. At their core, each is a beloved child of God. Sports and school, these are opportunities for our kids to use their gifts. But whether our kids excel or fail at these on any given day, they are still God's beloved. In my own attempts to build a sticky identity and help my kids know that they are God's beloved, I have been so encouraged by a story told by Michelle Anthony in her book, Spiritual Parenting. One weekend when Michelle and her husband went out of town, their teenage daughter invited a few friends over. Those friends in turn invited a few other friends over. Those kids invited some of their friends over. Before you knew it, there was a party raging. Without any adults in the house, things quickly got out of control and the police showed up. Upon arriving, the police called Michelle and her husband, who came back immediately from their weekend away. One interesting side note, Michelle is a pastor and her husband is the police chaplain, so the police knew them both quite well. Aren't kids just great? As Michelle and her husband prayed on their drive back, they had the strong sense that what happened this weekend was a symptom of a deeper problem. Their daughter was losing her sense of who she was. She was losing her sense of identity as God's beloved. So as they gave their daughter her list of consequences, they also told her to pack her bags. No, they weren't sending her off to live with a relative, although they were tempted to. Instead, Michelle knew she needed to take her daughter on a trip to the mountains. Now that might seem like a reward instead of a consequence, but Michelle knew that her daughter needed reminders of who she was. That could best happen if she got away for a few days. Michelle and her daughter swam. They sat on surfboards on the lake and just talked. They shopped and they ate every meal together. Slowly, over those days, Michelle saw her daughter emerge again. Her daughter was beginning to remember her identity. By the time they drove home, her daughter was refreshed and stronger. 3 years later, Michelle's daughter gave her a card that showed the impact of that mountain getaway. Her daughter wrote, "I love that you took me to the lake after I threw that party. Thank you for swimming, talking, and shopping. Thank you for wanting to be with me." What Michelle did was so wise. She realized that when her daughter was losing her identity in Christ, she shouldn't send her away. Instead, she should bring her daughter close. When our kids are slipping from their faith, that's one of the most important times to stick with them. The good news is that we don't have to send these sticky identity messages to our kids only ourselves. One of the best ways to help your kids understand their belovedness is to surround them with other adults who remind them that God is crazy about them. You have relatives as well as families at your school, neighborhood, or church who can help your child develop a sticky identity. After all, it's often in the context of community and relationships with others that we learn the most about ourselves, our relationships, and our God. Simply telling your child that she is a beautiful gift who is cherished and talented may not make much of a difference given the messages she faces every day. Fighting the myths and lies she feels about herself might require more robust communication and experiences. Enter rituals. A ritual may sound like some ancient or unusual practice, like chanting by candlelight. But a ritual is simply a social custom, or even a normal way of going about something that provides the comfort of history, regularity, and even tradition. How you celebrate Christmas, for example, is filled with rituals. What happens when you eat together, prepare for a big event, or visit relatives often has elements of rituals. These elements remind everyone that you are a community that has its own norms and customs. In fact, in the testimony we just saw, Marcy gave us several examples of rituals. Healthy rituals can include both daily activities and yearly celebrations. Here are some great ways to incorporate rituals into your family and build a sticky faith identity. After school, at dinner, or at bedtime, maybe spend a few minutes debriefing your child's day. Focus the conversation on how they felt about the day. Ask them where they felt like they could be themselves and what held them back from doing so at other times. Make it a habit to tuck your child in bed, even through middle school, if they'll let you. As you kiss them goodnight, pray with and for your child. In your prayer, thank the Lord that you have been given God's child to know and love. As they get older, invite your kids into your room at nighttime to pray together. At every birthday dinner, have each person pray a word of thanksgiving for the unique gift of the one whose birthday it is. Follow that up with a specific blessing that appropriately affirms the person's character and place in the family. For the last few years, I've enjoyed rubbing shoulders with Reggie Joyner and the great team at Rethink Ministries. In a book called Parenting Beyond Your Capacity, Reggie's co-author, Carrie Nieuwhof, describes a powerful identity ritual. He created this sticky ritual for his son, Jordan, as Jordan was entering adolescence. When Jordan turned 13, Carrie sat down with him and the two together chose 5 men who they both admired. Carrie approached each of the 5 men, asking them to spend one day with Jordan that summer. They could do whatever they wanted to do for that day, but Carrie hoped that they would share one spiritual truth and one life truth during the course of their day. A few of the 5 men took Jordan camping, and another took him to work. One of the 5 was a police officer and took him for a ride in a police cruiser. At the end of the summer, the 5 men, Jordan and Carrie, gathered for a barbecue. Jordan shared from her journal what had impacted him the most during each of those 5 special days. Jordan presented each of the 5 men with a Bible with their name inscribed on the cover. Each of the 5 men then took a few minutes to comment on their time with Jordan and ways they saw God at work in Jordan's life. They took time to affirm Jordan's character and his identity as one who is unconditionally loved by God. Afterward, they all gathered around Jordan and laid hands on him in prayer. Many of the men shared at that barbecue, "I wish someone had done that for me when I was 13. When Carrie's second son, Sam, was turning 13, Carrie walked through the same identity shaping process with him. As with Jordan, one of the highlights of the summer was the 5 mentors sharing how their time with Sam had impacted them. In fact, that final barbecue dinner was so powerful that the 5 men asked if they could get together every year, if that was okay with Sam. Sam said it was, and they are already planning for next year's dinner. The 2 stories of Carrie and Michelle, as well as the stories Marcy shared, inspire and encourage me as a parent who wants to build a sticky faith identity in my kids. I hope they do the same for you. Every parent has the chance to figure out how to show their kid that they love them without strings. Maybe in your family, it's the way you respond to your daughter when her report card isn't all that it could be, or how you encourage your son when he's frustrated at himself for letting the other team score a goal when he was the soccer goalie and his team lost the playoffs. Not that either of these have happened to me, of course. Helping our kids know their sticky identity as God's beloved will look different in your family than it will in mine. You and I are different parents, and God has given us kids with different personalities, different victories, and different struggles. But here's what we do have in common. In the midst of the very normal adolescent process of peering in that mirror and discovering their identity, you and I have a major opportunity. We have the chance to help our kids build sticky faith by reminding them that above all else, they are God's beloved. By the way, it's also true that above all else, you and I are also God's beloved.
All right, well, that's the truth I want you guys to hear today. We're going to kind of break that down, but you know what? That last line kind of got me too. It's like that you guys, as parents, are God's beloved as well. And so I wonder how many of you guys feel that way every day. I wonder how many times you say, today I just don't feel that. But once again, that's where it starts. If we are going to tell our kids and believe our kids are God's beloved, we have to believe that for ourselves. Okay, so let's just go through some things that you caught from the video, things that stuck out to you, maybe things that you took notes about. You can just raise your hand and I'll just call on you and let's do a couple of them before we kind of go into the teaching a little bit further. Anybody have anything that stuck out to you today about sticky identity? Don't be shy. Yes?
Just the rituals, it doesn't have to be the same for everybody. Like that. Just find a few things that you can do regularly that just stick out, that's something for you regularly.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about that a little further, but yes, that's a big one for me.
When they slip in their faith.
Say it one more time, sorry.
When the kids slip in their faith, they need to be held closer.
Yeah, that was I can't say we, that I struggle with. So many times I'm like, come on, don't you get this? Pull them closer, pull them closer. There's some other things. Couple more, 2 more.
I've got that our message as parents about our girls' identity, it just has to be louder than the world's message.
Absolutely. You guys are the strongest influence in their lives. And they, like we talked about last week, they are watching you, they're listening. It's just, we got to make sure we're intentional in those areas and read aloud, it's like 5%. One more, at least one more. Yeah.
I think that's how important communication with your kids are.
Yeah, communication is definitely key. And above all things, I feel like that's like one of those interwoven things that we're talking about, is just communication with our kids. Let them know that we fail. Let them know that we love them. So, yeah, just one more. Does anybody have any more? I want to make sure I don't. Yes, Kimberly.
I thought it was just a reminder that like faith, growing your faith is so messy. So not getting discouraged when they are, falling back. And even like our friends, the people that we live life with, that just that reminder it's a growing process.
Yeah.
To encourage when we do slip up to just keep going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's good. That's a very good thing to say. So here's one thing I want to say for this is in the book, a quote that they had, and I think it's a good truth for all of us in here. It says this: parents need to keep in mind that the world our kids are growing up in is far different than the world in which we grew up, and that changes everything for them. All right? So let me say it like basically, their world is different than the world that we grew up in. These kids, our kids today, have these things that are getting at them. I mean, just think about social media. Just think about the way that has changed our kids' culture, right? The way that they feel identified as, or so just remember that because you can't just keep saying, well, when I was a kid, it was easy for me. Like that doesn't work anymore, because what the environment they're growing up in, not because anything you're doing, it's because the world is shifting, evolving, technology, whatever, is different. So we always have to remember that as we parent, as we go through these things, is we can't compare the way it was when we were a child. Okay, so that's a big thing. So I'm going to go through kind of the book real quick. Some things, some are going to be very similar. The first one, as far as identity goes, that we have to remember that our child is God's beloved creation. You guys heard that. The trap we fall into sometimes, we feel like sometimes that our kids are defined by what they do, or what they control, or what others say about them. But here's the truth we need to hear, is that our child has been created, redeemed, and called to live as God's precious and beloved child. That's what we need to take away. Our child, our children are created, redeemed, and called to live as God's precious and beloved child. The second thing is this, that what they talk about in the book is that we need to treat each child as an individual. All right? This is for those who have multiple kids. This is huge. All kids are different. Your kids are different. Some kids are athletic. Some of your kids may be really athletic. The other one, they are not coordinated at all, right? The other one may love school. The other one may want to drop out in 3rd grade. Like that was my daughter in 3rd grade. She's like, I'm done with school. All right? So they're going to be different. Understand that each one is God's beloved, and they're created and known by God himself. So we have to treat all of our kids as individuals. We can't say, well, my child's this and my other child's this. Like, they're their own person. They have to understand that truth, that they're God's beloved still. The second one is rituals. We talked about that to reinforce their identity. A ritual is simply a social custom, right? One of the new rituals that we have created just in time for school, I was telling somebody, I think Stephanie, I was like, I'm so excited that school is back in session, because we finally get a schedule back. We get, back to our regular things. Like summer's crazy, our schedules are crazy, but now we're in school. But this is something we started at the end of summer, this new ritual of, at 9 o'clock, Morgan, you must be showered. You must get your water with ice before bed, before 9 o'clock. That's her ritual. Like, I need my cup of water by my bed, even though I don't drink it at all during the night. But I need a full glass of water, okay? That's her ritual. But she has to, and I'm sure you guys are shaking your heads, I guess. I have some daughters or some kids that have rituals of their own. But she has to be showered, teeth brushed, and her water right by her bed by 9 o'clock. And from 9 to 9:30 is her time to lay in bed and do her devotion, or read a book, or do journaling. But she must be in her bed and just kind of unwind a little bit. Sometimes we get caught up with TV or whatever we may be doing in our busy lives. But this is her time just to relax and get kind of shut down for bed. And then my wife and I would come in at the end, maybe sometimes 9:15. Maybe I'll be in there on the floor reading a book next to her. But then at 9:30, we make sure that we say our prayers. We talk about what she just went through in her devotion, and we pray together as a family. And that has been huge so far for our family. We started in the middle of August, so before school started, and she's leaning into it. I'm like, this is crazy. This is actually working. But that's a ritual that we started, And it's just been huge for her spiritual development and just for our family. Another simple ritual, guys, and this is, if you heard me after services, as I dismiss you guys, I talked to all the parents, another ritual that's huge is that after church, the first thing you do is not ask your child what they want for lunch. The first thing you do is ask what your child learned at church. That's a ritual. It's something simple. I get caught in that trap a lot because my daughter's here all 3 services, you know, so it's like, what'd you learn today? Oh, okay, and then you learned, okay. But as parents, we need to reinforce what they're doing in their small groups. Even if your child is 3 years old, you say, what did you do at church today? Like, be excited about it and make that a ritual. And then say, all right, we're going to Zoli's. Let's eat. We can talk a little bit more about that. But that's a ritual that I would love to see our families just take a hold of. It's not let anything else be first conversation, but let it be, what did you learn today? All right, that's a ritual. You saw that 5 adults to 1 that Carrie Newhoff, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in 2 weeks about your Sticky Faith team, but that's huge to have 5 adults pouring into your child outside of your own self. So make sure we'll talk about that. Another ritual that I would like to start, Denny and I, we just went to what's called Camp Paradise. And it was a phenomenal experience where we took our daughters, all right? Denny took one of his daughters, and we took them to this camp up near Canada, far away, no running water, no electricity, and it was an amazing experience. And we grew closer to one another, we grew closer to our daughters, and it was beautiful. And I would love to make that a ritual, but what I also loved inside of that was the very last day, or I guess the day before we left, we got together inside of a circle with our cabin, with our guys and our daughters, and we started talking about, hey, Haley, I see this in you, or Kylie, I see this in you, these characteristics, and this is how God has gifted you, and Morgan, this is the way that it was emotional, like just hearing these fathers speak truth into these little girls. That should be a ritual. We should always find those people, our small group, come around our children, and maybe try that one time. Just say, hey, we're going to sit down, we're just going to encourage our children. And your children will be like, what is going on here? But you know what? My daughter, she can't hide her emotions. So when someone's talking about her, she's just, like her eyes are flooded, and she's like, wow, that's what they think of me, like that's how God has gifted me. So it's just an amazing ritual. So I would encourage you, find a way to do that with your children. The next one's hard. Help your child grow through hardship. I don't know what you've experienced in life, but I guarantee there's been some type of hardship in there. A verse in Scripture in Romans chapter 5 says, suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. Our kids, the truth is our kids grow through pain, and they're going to grow through pain. And we as parents want to do everything we can to make sure that they don't experience pain, right? And I'm not saying, hey, make sure your kids experience pain, because it develops character, and that's important. But it's going to happen, and so we need to make sure we take advantage of that, and it's okay. We need to let them know that it's okay to talk about this. It's okay to talk through that pain, and not just let them go in the room and cry about it, but we need to talk about how Grandpa passed away and what that means. We need to talk about this cancer that's affecting our family, because that shapes their identity. These hardships shape their identity. Last one is this. This one's big. Use extracurricular activities to explore identity, not define it. Use extracurricular activities to explore identity, not define it. As parents, we blow it here. Let's just be honest. We absolutely blow it here. Some of you guys are awesome. You have it figured out. You understand it. You're doing a good job. But as a majority, as a family pastor, I see this. I feel like we blow it here. So many times we let sports or academics or band or whatever, you can put whatever your child's involved in, define our kids. How good is your kid? Where's he going to college? All those things. But instead, we need to see these as opportunities to further develop, not define them, to help build their base. In the book that I was reading with Sticky Faith, there was a parent who kind of figured that out along the way. They started saying, hey, every goal that you score, we'll go out for ice cream. Like, it was a very innocent thing. If you score a goal, we'll go out for ice cream today. And then when you don't score a goal, we don't get rewarded. So just kind of think about those things. Because sooner or later, those things, if we keep trying to reinforce that, that's going to start defining them. But really, we need to let them know that they are still God's beloved, and they're loved no matter what. So use it to explore, not define it. All right? So that's the sticky faith identity for this week. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I have some questions in just a little bit we're going to go through. Now I'm going to go through two things, two steps of the intentional parenting, which once again, I feel like it connects in just this week. The first action of intentional parenting is called encouraging words. Is it have encouraging words? Intentional parents regularly use words that are positive and life-giving. If you ever wonder if your child needs encouragement, you just have to make sure they're breathing. Okay? If they're breathing, they need encouragement all the time. Okay? Our kids, even ourselves, we need encouragement. It's required. It helps build us up. Proverbs 12:18 says, "Thoughtless words cut deeply like a thrusting sword, but the speech of the wise is a healing balm." Proverbs 12:18. A quick-fix parent doesn't give thought to the words, and they allow emotions to dictate their words. All right, such as sarcasm, name-calling, disgust, shaming, swearing. Okay, all those things. Just think about it. Even sarcasm. Like, I'm probably one of the most sarcastic person there is, and that is, it cuts like swords sometimes. So, like, as I was preparing for this, you know, it's like you hear this truth, and as you go through your week as a parent, you're like, I shouldn't say that, but it still came out. Like, I shouldn't be sarcastic in that area. I shouldn't call her a dork, you know? Like, you know, I call her a dork. Like, sometimes I just call her names, and you know what? Those are the things that sometimes shape our children. And we'll talk about that right here, because misguided words can define somebody when trying to describe your child. Like, if you always say, if you're introducing your child, for example, you say, yeah, hey, this is my child, Morgan, she's really shy, and that defines her. Like, you're saying that to the teacher, and she's right next to you, say, she's really shy. Well, how's she going to act after that? She's going to act shy. Or if you say, she's a little awkward sometimes. She likes to do these goofy, well, and then she's like, am I awkward? Like, my mom and dad, they keep saying that to everybody that they introduce me to. Or, he's my wild child, or he's not very coordinated. Those things stick with our kids. They define them if we're not careful, so we have to use encouraging words. And here's the truth in the book that I read too. It says, we can't say as parents, I didn't mean to say that. What's accurate is that you didn't want it to be heard. You meant to say it because it was brewing in your heart. So just think about some of those things that are coming out, maybe when you're talking with your spouse or when you talk with your child in anger. Those are things that are in your heart. Maybe you didn't want it to come out, but it was still in your heart. Matthew 12:35 says, a good person produces good words from a good heart, and an evil person produces evil from an evil heart. We have to go back and we need to understand that we are all God's dearly loved children. Intentional parents are those who recognize they are loved and dearly capable of dearly loving. Okay? So that's the first one, is genuine, encouraging words. The second one, last one, is genuine affection. All right? Intentional parents liberally give affection. Affection. This one's good. I feel like I have this one down. Studies show that kids need affection. Insufficient affection can lead to feelings of alienation, hostility, aggression, lower self-esteem, and antisocial and risky behaviors. Even with older children, guys, I get it. Like, my daughter's getting 10. You know, there's sooner or later she's not going to want affection, right? But they still need it. They still need it. They need it from their parents. They need that affection. They need to feel that affection. They need to feel that touch. They need to know that they are dearly loved by God and by you guys. You know, there's going to come a time, it started happening a little bit last year, when I would drop Morgan off at school, like, it's always like, give me a kiss before you get out of the car, right? She's like, okay. Towards the end of the year, she's like, Dad, I don't know. And I'm like, no, you're going to give me a kiss. You're in 4th grade. You're not there yet. But you know what? Sooner or later, I know there's going to be a time. But that doesn't mean that I stop. Maybe I respect her a little bit more, and I say, maybe give me a kiss at home, or when she gets out, I grab her leg and I pat her and just tell her how much I love her and I'm proud of her. We can still do that and still respect them, but not let up on our affection. We have to be good at this. So that's the second one, genuine affection. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to have you guys turn to the back again. I'm going to have you as spouses, if you guys want to go through those questions together, if you're here by yourself. I'm so excited that you are here. You guys can just go through those next 2 questions for a little bit, and then I'm going to give you some further instructions. After we do that, I'm going to break you up in a little bit smaller groups. So I want you to really focus on those 2 questions, and then we will break up again. Okay? So take about 5 to 7 minutes, and we'll come back together. Okay? If you guys want to spread out, you're more than welcome, but make sure you are talking and talking through it. Okay? That's a little bit. Take about a couple more minutes, and then we're going to break you up into groups real quick. here's what we're going to do, real quick. A couple housekeeping items first. That way, we're going to break off in a group in just a little bit. You just pick 2 to 3 people, a smaller group, to be able to share. Some of you guys are like, oh, that's kind of uncomfortable for me. And that's okay. This is kind of good to get you out of comfort zone, let you know. And here, this is where other parents are. And so what I basically want you to do is just kind of discuss number 2 and tell each other why you think your child would answer that way. All right, so just talk about number 2 a little bit, discuss that. And if there would be one brave person at the very end, if they could just pray for you guys, pray for your group, that'd be awesome. So some of you guys are already sweating out the armpits. You're like, I'm going to pray, I don't know. But it's good. It's good. You got to pray for each other. All right, so hopefully the names will help. You can kind of see the kids' ages and how many kids they have. So if you want to try to associate with, same stage of life, that's awesome. But if not, it's totally good, okay? So just 3 or 4, we'll just discuss number 2 and just kind of say, hey, why, this is why my kids would probably say this about, like this, for example, for Morgan, this last week, I asked her this question just to kind of test her a little bit as I was preparing. Like, Morgan, who would you say you are? She's like, I'm Morgan. Yeah, exactly. She's like, I'm Morgan. I have some good friends, and I don't know. That's about it. I'm like, oh, okay. What about, you love Jesus? And she's like, oh yeah, I love God. I love to follow Jesus. And I was like, what about mom and dad? Like, do you have a good mom and dad? And she's like, oh yeah, no. But that's how my daughter is. But then we started saying you are so loved by your Creator. And we started telling her how we feel like she's defined. And so it was a really good thing to tell her that. And so I started going through some different things. So you're really talented here, and but we started with you are created and loved by God, and that was our first thing we told her. So it was pretty cool. So I would challenge you as parents when you get back, maybe just ask them that question: Who are you? Who do you think you are? And that way you can say, well, here's how I see who you are. Okay. So you'll talk about that with your the guys around you. Second thing is this, make sure, I know we had some people come in a little bit late, make sure you sign in if you weren't here last week, you just go to the very end and write your name. If you weren't here last week, your name should be typed up and ready to go. Phone numbers, I see I made some mistakes. Obviously your handwriting was hard, so make sure you sign in for that. That'd be great. Also, I've had a couple of you, if you were here last weekend, for all the families in the crossing, we are asking that you would fill one of these out for each one of your children. This helps us get to know your kids a little bit more. If there's anything we need to know to help support them, to help teach them better, this will help us. So I have extras up here, and we're asking that you guys would turn those in. So you need one for each child, and so I'll put those up here. As you guys are in your groups, I will have Jamie and Julie will come around with the extra homework assignment, right? It's not really homework, but I would love for you guys to do it. It comes out of the Intentional Parenting book. It just really helps you guys kind of grade yourself on how you're doing with encouraging words and how you're doing with genuine affection. All right, so I would encourage you guys, it doesn't take very long to do this, to just say, oh, I really stink at this, oh, I'm really good at this, and you'll notice it's very short, so you'll get that when you're in your group as well, okay? So that'll be good. Once you guys are done, once you feel like you're in a good spot, have someone pray, and you guys are dismissed. It is 9:55, so we need to be out of here in 15 minutes. You got plenty of time. So does that make sense to everybody? All right, so once you break off, talk about number 2, tell each other why your child would answer that way, sign in, make sure you pick up the homework assignment. We'll come around and pass those out. Here's the orange sheets. If you guys have any questions, I'll be sticking around for a little bit. If you want to answer those now, I'll be available. Okay, if you have questions, you can come on up. Don't make this awkward. Just 2 or 3, 3 or 4, 5 or 6. No more than 6, probably. All right. Yes.
On number two, asking, I would think it would be a good thing. Thank you, sir.
Discuss this as a couple.
My first answer was humble. I alternate.
And then he